Welcome to Audible Stories. The Pauper Prince. Long ago in Morocco there lived a princess who was driving in her carriage from the palace into the city, when suddenly the sky opened, and a dragon swooped down out of the heavens and picked her up. It was the work of evil spirits who had sent the dragon down to capture the princess. They put her under a spell, and hid her away in a secret hideout. When word spread of her capture, many princes attempted to rescue the princess, but no one returned to the king with good news. Rather, each prince came and said, "Alas, I could not find her." They all had one thing for the king: a bad news. Time passed. Then one day a poor orphan who was all alone in the world decided to go to the city to find work. He was a handsome young man, and he began the wearisome trek from the countryside. After he had walked all day, he came upon a tall, crumbling structure. It began to rain lightly outside, so he decided to stop and take shelter at this place. He knocked on the old door. When no one answered, he cautiously walked inside, calling into the darkness, "Is anyone home? Anybody there?" Suddenly, out of the dark shadows, a hand carrying a lighted candle floated toward him. A finger beckoned to him. He was a fearless young man, so he walked toward the hand. Soon he discovered he was walking down a dark flight of stairs. At the bottom of the stairwell, he saw an alluring palace. He followed the hand into an extravagant room rich with tapestries and tile. In the room was a table laden with food. The young orphan was starving, and without stopping to think, he began to eat until he was full. Then he turned and saw the hand beside him. Once again the finger beckoned. Again he followed, this time down a hallway into another room. In this room was a big bed, and on the coverlet laid a silk dressing gown. He dressed in the gown and climbed into the bed. He slept deeply through that night, until the hand tapped him on the shoulder at dawn. The pauper now woke feeling rested and strong, and from somewhere in the distance he heard a voice. "You are a brave young man," said the voice. "You were the first who dared to follow me. Promise to wait patiently for the next 3 nights without running away or calling for help, and you will break the spell of the evil spirits." Naturally the pauper agreed to wait. "I promise to break the spell," he said, though he had no idea what that spell was. That night he feasted again, and again he slept in the big, warm bed. At midnight he heard a creaking sound and the doors to the room opened. In marched an army of men carrying clubs. They began to beat him most viciously. Still, true to his word, he did not run or cry out. At dawn the army departed and the hand reappeared. This time the hand carried salves and balms and liquid medicines, and it treated his wounds and bruises. Within minutes he was cured. The second night the same thing happened. Again pauper did not run away or cry out. Once again at dawn the hand healed him. On the third night, the army beat him even more cruelly and brutally, but he did not complain or run away, and all night he whispered his mantra, "I will break the spell of the jinns." In the morning of the 4th day, he waited, but this time the hand did not appear at dawn. He waited another hour, and then another, and at last a beautiful woman appeared. It was she who treated his wounds with her magical ointments. Once again he was instantly healed. The pauper could not take his eyes from this young woman's face. She was so exquisite, he got mesmerized. "Who are you?" he asked. The young woman told the young pauper the story of the day the dragons stole and captured her away and the jinn's enchantment. "I am a princess," she said, and the moment she finished her tale, she disappeared. Once again the pauper was in his own tattered clothes, standing above the ruins of the palace. But this time he wanted to find the princess. Alas, he had no money, no horses, no friends to help. Still, he vowed he would travel the world until he found her. And he set off on his quest to quench the thirst of finding the beautiful princess. Meanwhile, the princess's spell had been broken and the dragon carried her back to the palace. There, the princess waited and waited for the young pauper. She remembered the young man who vowed to love her, but at last she gave up hope that the young pauper would return. To her father's delight, the princess agreed to marry one of the princes who he wished to marry her. On their wedding day, as the princess was riding in her coach, she noticed a young man dressed in rugs and rags standing at the gates of the palace. At once she recognized his face. It was her young pauper, and she understood that he had tried to reach her. In his eyes she saw tears, and she knew he was sad, and madly in love with her. "Stop at once," she called to the coachman, and she turned to the marrying prince. "Some time ago I lost the key to my box of jewels, and I had a new one made," she said. "Then suddenly I found the old one. Which key should I use?" "The old one, of course," the prince said. "The original is always best." "I strongly agree," said the princess. And with those words she stepped out of the coach and ran to the young pauper. She took his hand in hers and led him back to the coach. "When I spoke of an old key," she said to the prince, "this is what I meant. When no prince was brave enough to rescue me, this young pauper did, and he has won my heart." And so the princess married the pauper prince, and they lived happily ever after. If you like the story, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you for listening.